Welcome back to the Wallace branch. And today we're going to be building a couple of assets that represent real Wallace buildings that have long ago been demolished. The Signal Gasoline Station and the Samuels Hotel. I decided to model my version on the Signal Station in Portland, Oregon, that's now a historical landmark. I consider this to be a variation of Art Deco with the neon mast, although it does have some similarity to later Googie style that we already talked about. The real station in Wallace, though, did not have this type of mast. You can see the location of the original Signal gas station in several old photos of Wallace. It was located right across the river from the UP Depot on Bank Street, where the police station is now. It's a pretty prominent position, and I thought it would be a great background asset to include. The pumps were also right by the streets, although I guess you could also drive in. It's not quite clear to me from the photos. It also seems to have had a garage and a ton of signage for those interested in buying coal or lubricants or getting their tires changed, anything like that. Unlike a lot of companies where Wikipedia is pretty comprehensive, it doesn't have much on Signal. Here's what it says. The Signal companies trace their history to the Signal Gasoline Company, founded by Samuel B. Mosher in 1922. It renamed itself to Signal Gas and Oil in 1928 to reflect its expanding businesses. By the 1950s, Signal was the largest independent oil company on the west coast of the U.S., and Mosher held large stakes in American President lines and the Flying Tiger line. In 1964, Signal merged with the Garrett Corporation, an aerospace company. In 1967, they purchased Mack Truck, and the combined company adopted the Signal Companies as its corporate name in 1968, and in 1974 sold its original oil operations to Burma Oil for $480 million. However, you do have to look elsewhere to figure out when precisely the Signal brand of gas station started to fade away. Here's what I found on garageart.com. Signal gasoline was introduced in 1922 by the Signal Oil and Gas Company based in Los Angeles, California. Signal gasoline's distinctive signs became prominent fixtures along American roads. The Signal gas signs featured a prominent Signal logo in bold red letters, often set against a white or yellow background. These signs were designed to be eye-catching, ensuring that travelers easily spotted the Signal gas station logos. Signal Oil expanded its reach by acquiring and building a network of service stations across the western U.S. Signal Gasoline was known for its innovative marketing campaigns, and they introduced the Go Signal advertising slogan, emphasizing speed and performance. The Signal gas signs played a central role in these campaigns. During World War II, Signal Oil played a crucial role in supplying aviation fuel for military aircraft, and in the post-war era, as the American automotive landscape evolved, Signal Gasoline faced increasing competition from larger oil companies. In 1965, Signal Oil merged with Chevron Corporation, one of the largest oil companies in the world. While the Signal Gasoline brand gradually faded away, the legacy of its iconic signs remains an enduring symbol of a bygone era in American motoring history. I particularly enjoyed making the old-style gas pumps using curves and bevels. You can find a bunch of old-time gas pumps on the DLS, but I enjoyed making my own. I used curves for the hoses, and then I added geometry to the curves, converted them to mesh assets for detailing, and for adding the little triggers. I used a similar technique to make the old-fashioned bell. Milton still sells these bells, and they look almost exactly the same. I can't remember hearing that ding-ding sound at any fuel pump I've used in the last 20 years, but who knows? It's another example of how you can go overboard in asset creation, and maybe most amateurs like me do go overboard, but that's the fun of it. Okay, now shifting gears almost completely, let's talk about the Samuels Hotel. Samuels was the location of the original Meadows Bar, where in 1916 Wallace's former mayor, Herman Rossi, shot and killed a man who'd been seeing his young wife, which we already talked about. And the Samuels was by far the largest hotel in town and the most prestigious. Originally, it was pristine looking and had this huge flag at the top of its spire, and later the conical roof was removed from the turret and it was replaced by a radio mast of some kind. It also had a vertical sign for part of its history, and eventually the hotel just fell into disrepair to such an extent that there were even holes in the floors of some of the rooms. It was torn down in the 1970s, just before the movement to preserve the downtown of Wallace got going in earnest, and the whole location is now a city park, although the building is preserved in memory by a historical marker, as well as by the Samuels name inlaid in the pavement, left from the original hotel entrance. While the building was long gone by the time of the filming of the movie Heaven's Gate, it seems like the type of brick building that Cimino would have loved to have in his film. Arguably the facade, the false front that was built by the station for the movie, held a bit of the same scale or character. This time, instead of showing you the full build, I wanted to go over a couple of points that might prove interesting if you're working on your own asset creation. Here you see a comparison of my first and second efforts at the Samuels. The mesh is the same, only the textures and shading are different. One, you can see the difference when you apply Shade Auto Smooth to the brick turret. I didn't do that initially because with one text, this might have looked a little too smooth, but quickly this basic brick texture that I had used started to seem unsatisfactory, and the various free PBR brick textures that I downloaded, they were either too plain or too damaged or too weathered, too much of a tiling pattern that was created when I applied them. This building has a huge brick wall, so I needed something that could cover a large area, but still look like that it had a PBR surface with displacement and normals. With trial and error, I did work my way through the excellent tutorial of Ryan King Art on procedural brick textures. I just made mine a bit darker, and I made the pitting on the bricks a bit more uniform to avoid tiling. Then, once I had the procedural texture, I edited the albedo layer to put on the rain and weathering streaks on the top and bottom of the image. For the other layers, I really reduced the displacement value a lot versus what Ryan King Art used to make it look decent in Trainz. What I really want to show is a little bit slower walkthrough of making the PBR sign. Initially, I just used a plain red and white sign in one text, but I decided to try my hand at weathering this time, with a combination of procedural edgeware and PBR Painter. I can recommend this one video by Riley Brown that shows all the steps needed to set up good edgeware using the bevel modifier, but note, you have to remember to be in cycles rendering mode or else it won't work. It's really easy to forget that. And after I implemented that tutorial and fiddled with the settings for an eternity, I baked it onto an image to use as my edgeware. Honestly, I could have done this just as easily in PBR Painter, but it's nice to know the steps without PBR Painter anyway, and if you're doing it without PBR Painter, maybe this is a viable option. Then I used the stencil function of PBR Painter to add the lettering. I used some of my standard PBR Painter settings to add some procedural streaks where the rain or elements have eroded the paint and exposed the shiny metal underneath. And then I added some cracks in the paint, although you can really hardly see them given the resolution of the texture. Next, I baked that all down into images. I edited them into the albedo parameters and normal file that Trainz needs. The only significant one of those is the parameters file, because the normal file has no displacement and the albedo file has no alpha layer. And then once the 3 files are created, I imported them as a PBR texture like this. I'll emphasize again, this is not intended as a step-by-step tutorial, but maybe if you're doing this just for the first time, it's useful to have this as a reference after watching some of those other tutorials. Then having a look at the sign, how it seems in Trainz, it still looked a bit too pristine to me, so I wanted the weathering to be more noticeable. I just hopped back into PBR Painter, added another layer to represent some dirty rain streaks, used the same vertical distortion on procedural texture to get those vertical streaks. The final result, I'm not kidding myself about the realism here, but it's a lot better than what I had originally, or what I could have created by just modifying the image file directly in Photoshop. I think the final result looks way better than the original, and this was basically the model where I finally started to be convinced that maybe PBR and PBR Painter were worth a little bit of extra effort now and then. Anyway, I hope you found some of this useful, and this type of episode, it's really a one-off. Next time, we'll be wrapping up the asset creation part of the Wallace downtown, tackling 2 of the town's iconic movie theaters, the Wilma and the Grand Theater. So if you're up for movie night, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time on the Wallace branch.